Welcome to the Let's Go Ricky Roll podcast. I'm Beto Duran, the guy behind the scenes doing a bunch of different stuff. Before we bring in Ricky and Thole, thanks to everybody who's been leaving comments on the Instagram page at Let's Go Ricky Row. Those leaving comments on the iTunes and on Spotify and also on my personal page at Beto Vision. Appreciate it. Last week's episode was really, really good. You can go back and archive them all on YouTube. Just type in my name, Beto Duran, BetoDuran. It's on my page right there. And you can see the show. We are live every Tuesday at 10 o'clock. This week we're doing it a little bit earlier because we got a nice golf outing later on. Like, we're going to be honest with you. We got to get going. It's beautiful weather in LA, so we got to go golf. But last week's episode was really, really good. Go and check it out. And if those of you thinking like, oh, was it scripted? It wasn't. We let it flow off the cuff. So we keep on doing that. As always, let's bring in Ricky Romero. He is somewhere in Southern California, right, Rick?
Same place as always.
And let's go to the East Coast where Josh Thole last week told us he was on a roof. Thole, you look clean, bro. You're back in your studio. What's going on here?
Well, I just was on a roof. I went home, threw some water on my hair and on my face, and now here I am in the same spot as I was last week, Tuesday.
Okay. Rick, before you jumped on, he told me that he wanted to come on the show looking like Farmer Thole, like hair crazy, a flannel, like ripped up, because he literally just came off the roof, but was vetoed and got told that he had to look professional. I don't like that.
Oh.
I don't like
that sounds like Catherine.
Wow, you nailed it. Ding, 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 ding.
Thole, were you really on a roof?
I was really on a roof. I had a harness on and everything. I almost came with the harness to prove to you guys.
Don't worry, JT. I was asking Beto last week about that KTLA show I'm doing here in LA about the Dodgers. I was asking him, I was like, hey, do I have to wear a tie? Do I have to wear a suit? And he's like, bro, tie always. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I would show up in a nice dress shirt and jeans, like.
Yeah, no coat, nothing. Yeah, do that.
Nah,
do that. It's good.
No way.
All right, so let's get the update on Farmer Thole. Josh, you were literally on a roof doing what?
We're now. So the first time I was on a roof, we were taking the old steel off. Now this time on the roof, we're putting the new steel on. And if you guys give me 1 second,
here we go.
I have something that's very important to show you guys.
What do we got?
Ooh. That's the new metal that's on.
He really has.
You didn't put that all by yourself, did you?
No. Me and my father-in-law are doing this. I do the heavy lifting. He does the grunt work. Does that make sense?
Josh, you played in the show. Come on. Let's pay somebody to do that.
Hire somebody. I tried to hire somebody. He said no. So we're going to do it. I tell you, in all honesty, it's so exciting when it's done. So we have the first side done, and it's like such a accomplishment, I think, at the end of the day, is where the mindset that we're going.
Wow. This is what people really do care about. They don't care about the baseball stories. They worry about Farmer Thole and what's going on. Rick, you got your headphones? I think I hear a little feedback with you.
No, I do have my headphones. I didn't wear them last week, and it sounded better.
All right, so I don't know what's going on.
I think the echo's coming from you.
Is it coming from me? No,
yeah.
It can't be coming from me. Oh, man. Better not be coming from me. Oh, well, we'll figure it out.
Oh, you're good now.
Let's see here. All right, here we go. We'll figure it all out. All right, let's get going. As we're doing this show, every single week we're going to be here for you. Ricky, we're going to go, like I said, talk about the stories of what's going on, the updates on Farmer Thole. Ricky, you have an exciting project going on. Thole, our boy is back in baseball. He's a T-ball coach.
Yes. Coach Ricky.
No, man. We got our first game on Saturday. We're 2 practices in, last 2 Saturdays, and first game with a bunch of 5 and 6-year-olds, 5-year-olds. I think all of them are 5, maybe 6. I don't know, but it's It's stressful. The most stressful part is making sure somebody doesn't swing a bat while somebody's behind them. That's the most stressful part because these kids just want to swing. Like they drop their gloves and they're like, we just want to hit. We don't want to play defense, which is understandable. Everyone wants offense, but we kind of try and rotate them and try to do a little bit of that, run the bases. And it's funny watching them, like just seeing them run the bases like, hey, okay, run to first base. And they look at you like, where's first base? Obviously now 2 practices in, they got it down pretty good, but the first day was pretty funny watching them run the bases. And if another kid is beating the other kid, then they cut across the field to beat them. So it's
I love it. I wish
madness.
I could run the bases like that.
Yeah. So,
all right, Ricky, what's the name of your team?
The Pacific Coast Highway Blue Jays.
Yeah. All right. The PC Blue Jays.
PCH Blue Jays. Yeah.
I love it.
This year, because of COVID, there was no sponsors. Usually in this area, it's all about sponsors and stuff like that. I don't really like the whole sponsor thing. I'm more of when I was growing up, I always had a team. You always were a team, and you always went back and looked at the roster of that team. And then I feel like you always imitated a player or the best player on that team. If you were the Dodgers when I was growing up, it was like, oh, I want to be like Darryl Strawberry. I want to hit like Eric Davis type thing. And now last year, I think they only played 2 or 3 games and they were like this furnishing company. It was kind of weird.
Chico's Bail Bonds.
Furnishing company. Hey, is that how it goes? Chico's Bail Bonds. Yeah. Hey, is that how it goes? If you're the coach of the team, you get like 20% off at the store or something.
I didn't get no 20% off anywhere, but I was a little disappointed. I was like, man, in this area where we live in, these uniforms are whack. They were whack, and I was like so disappointed in the hat. The hats were like not even like this. They were like the strap on with the Velcro, and I'm like, what is this? Like come on, let's put a little bit more effort into it.
And you guys are paying a lot of money because that's what happens when you live behind the hills. Like
and I was like, man, in park leagues, we were an actual team. We got sweet uniforms, and then my wife was always like, yeah, but you guys were like the sheriffs were sponsoring it, or someone was sponsoring it. And I was like, yeah, that's why, huh? But still, we're paying good money. We should get some nice uniforms, and we had to go buy socks. And I'm like, you kidding me?
You don't get your own socks?
No, man. It was just I was a little disappointed.
Rick, like totally, I keep telling Ricky, since he lives in a gated community with the Hollywood stars, that he has to go back to his roots, has to go back to East LA. Because when you play in the neighborhood parks, here, as the mayor of Carson, we get a hat, a jersey, legit jersey, pants, belt, socks, and maybe you might get a fight in the stands.
And that's what grows. Like that's how the kids like get a little grit about them. Yeah. Anybody can live behind a concrete wall, Ricky. Let's go.
Well, you know what?
With some edge.
In all seriousness, my goal is to one day, if Sebastian continues to play, is to take him back to where I grew up and play like 2-3 seasons there. Just so that he kind of sees like a bit of a different, like, oh, this is where Daddy grew up. This is like, just so he sees something a little bit different, and I just want him to kind of go back and appreciate what he has, more than anything. And not saying that he doesn't, but I think it would be neat. My dad wants to coach him too, so I think that would be sweet too.
Wait, Rick,
that would be fun.
The field you guys are at, is there a grass infield?
No, it's dirt. Maybe the older kids. We're on the T-ball side,
okay.
That's all dirt in the infield.
But the older
there's
kids,
a lot of COVID. There's like all the restrictions are crazy. Like all the kids have to wear masks. The coaches obviously have to wear masks. They expect us to keep the 5-year-olds 6 feet apart. I'm like, there's no chance that's gonna happen. There's just no chance. Like, just stop right there.
Totally. What was your little league like?
What was my little league like? We were sponsored by the chiropractor, the towing company. That's how we were sponsored. But we had a good little league program. And I say that with that being said, my father was the one that ran the little league, right? He was the organizer behind it. So I always felt like they did a good job. But I grew up in a small town, so we would have one or two teams at each division, and we would just play.
Yeah,
It was
well, I
part
think
of the
that's the one thing I didn't notice though, Beto and Josh, that it's pretty normal for teams to be a certain sponsor, like that, the name of a sponsor. I didn't know that. You know,
Nah,
obviously, like
neither
I
did
said,
I.
growing up in the inner city, you were always a team. You were always a MLB team.
Yeah.
And the more I talk to guys, they're like, "Oh no, it's pretty normal. It's normal to be a chiropractor company, a towing company, a bail bonds company." I honestly did not know that.
Neither did I. And what happens now is MLB. So, because my kids still play at the park, not anymore, but I'm still, at the parks. I'm really involved in Carson. I used to be a Parks and Rec commissioner, believe it or not. I got appointed by the mayor to be a Parks and Rec commissioner.
Yeah.
I did not go to any meetings. I got kicked out after 6 months. But anyway.
Shocker.
So,
Shocker.
But they paid me $75 to go to a meeting. I went to 2 of them, and then they wanted me there all the time. Anyways, because MLB, what they do, you can't have the team names anymore.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I heard.
Of licensing. So you could be, say, the Dodgers, and the uniform companies, they'll give you an LA hat, but it'll say like Veterans Park or Carson Park on your jersey, and you'll get them in the team colors, but you can't be the official Dodgers because of MLB licensing.
That's freaking brutal, and I think that's awful, right? Because we wonder why we can't grow the game as a whole. That's a big reason. I mean, I think what Trevor Bauer did the other day was kind of attacking Major League Baseball when he had his logo on his belt and on his undershirt, and he shows the letter on the Instagram and the Twitter. And the thing about it is he says, "This is my brand. It's not just some random company. This is my brand." And he is right. Major League Baseball, I've sat in meetings where they've talked about it is good to market yourself. It helps market the industry. So he does that, and he still gets in trouble. And it's like, this is why we're losing steam. To Ricky's point a while ago, he said, you were called the Dodgers, and you went to the roster, and, I want to hit like Eric Davis. Like, that's how kids get involved and get excited about the game. Now it's gone. And they're right in their own bed at this point, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that point. I mean, there was one year where we were the Reds, and we went to Dodger Stadium to go watch the Cincinnati Reds versus the Dodgers because I wanted to see the Reds. I was like, I want to see who they have. They had, who was there at the time? Maybe Barry Larkin was there at the time. And you're just
Chris
watching
Sabo.
these guys. No, he was a little. Maybe your time.
You're younger.
Your time.
You're younger. Yeah, my time.
But there was guys that you kind of want to go and watch and see and you're just like, this is cool. That's our team. That's our team. This is who I want to be. I want to be like this guy. And it's true. It really does bring a little different feel, and it stinks that MLB doesn't allow you to do that. I mean, I think what the Dodgers have done in Belvedere Park, one of the parks I grew up in East LA. They've sponsored the league, and now it's called they redid the field and all that stuff, but every single team it's called in every division is the Dodgers. Like there's no other teams.
Yeah.
So
they do that stuff, the outreach pretty good.
Yeah, and it's an interesting topic because I think it, like to JT's point, it's you got to grow the game somehow, some way, but there's always these like, we want to grow the game, but behind the scenes it's like, nah, not really.
There's nothing there for us.
Like they come out and say this, but there's no action. And if you want to continue, especially in the inner cities, where there's a lot of good ball players. Everyone always asks me, and I'm like, there's great ball players in the inner city, but who the hell is going to go look at them? Who's going to go watch them? Who's going to be able to afford a perfect game, invitation and money like that? Who's going to, so these guys, they rely on maybe getting, a junior college to look at them and then kind of build themselves up. I see Long Beach State doing some good things with some inner city kids as part of their rotation, actually, which is pretty cool to see. But I think it has room to grow even more, and I think it does a disservice to the inner city kids that can't afford those big tournaments. There's a lot of talent. I always tell scouts, I was like, I mean, I wish we were living in the times when scouts actually went to games and watched with their own eyes and were able to pick out a good player here and there. And I feel like it's kind of lost that,
Yeah, it's gone. I mean, that's there's scouts that have so much baseball knowledge that are getting pushed out of the game because it's all going on the computer, and you can use recruiting databases. You can be using the BAT system. I mean, even pro scouts. I mean, they're becoming those. They're all getting slashed because they're saying we don't need all you got. We don't need all of you at the ballpark. But in fact, I think there's something to be learned when you go sit and watch a baseball game. You never know what you're going to see. I mean, pre-pitch preparation, just different things that the intangibles that I like to talk about. It's like those are the important things that you can't see sitting behind the computer. And I'm with you, Ricky. I hope one day we go full circle and there's scouts out there watching. I know 100% you went through it, but when I was getting recruited, or like when I was getting recruited for colleges, and then the draft was slowly approaching, on any given night at some small town in Illinois, there would be anywhere from 10 colleges there to 15 major league teams.
Wow. And there's beauty in that. I think there's beauty. There's a lot of beauty in that when you're able to see that, especially in a small community, and it's just taken such a different turn for some reason. Obviously, with the analytics and all that stuff, and they're letting go of baseball people. But at the same time, I'm like, there's something about going to a game, watching talent. But if the talent is not all there mentally, you're able to pick that out. You know, you're able to say, this guy, you know, he's a head case. He gives up a run. Yeah, he can go out and punch out 15. But if he gives up a run, he is going crazy on the mound. He's throwing his glove. You know, you're able to see attitude problems, which is important, I think, in baseball, and how you handle adversity and all that. And I remember, like I said, when I was coming up, there was, you know, and not to, I don't like talking about myself or tooting my own horn or anything like that, but there was something to be said that when I was pitching in my senior year, you'd have like, you know, 25 teams, you know, with radar guns and in East LA, and that I was always proud of that. I'm like, holy smokes, this attention is crazy. I didn't even know what to do, what to think. My mom was like a nervous wreck, praying and doing all her things in the stands. But it was something to be said about that. You're like, it just motivated me. And, you know, and I remember playing against in a playoff game against Cleveland High School, Beto, here in San Fernando Valley, and they beat us in the first round. And I remember their starting shortstop, I'll never forget, their starting shortstop ended up going to University of Nevada. And, you know, there's something to be said, like just seeing stuff like that where you're like, oh man, like there's actually a LA City kid who I'm playing against in Division I baseball that I played against in high school. And, you know, I just wish it just grew even more and you saw more of it, you know, because there, like I said, there's a lot of talent in the inner cities.
Yeah. In the Mariners, you know, our friend Gary Patrick, guy I grew up with, was a Mariner scout. We've golfed with him, and the Mariners blew out the entire scouting department. I don't know if you heard about that, Totally. And they're doing a lot of analytics, and they're doing a lot of videos. So they're going and just getting the recruiting videos from like Perfect Game or whatever those showcases are, and that's how they're scouting kids, because they feel, we'll look at the spin rate, we'll look at all the other numbers, and we can draft them based on that. And as far as like everything else, we'll figure that out later. And it's saving them a bunch of money because you don't have to pay the scouts their salary, you don't have to pay them their travel, you don't have to pay their insurance or their retirement. It's like damn, is it really becoming a robotic everything?
Yeah, it is. It truly is. And I know a lot of people that have lost their jobs because of that kind of format, I guess, that these teams are going to. And at the end of the day, this just becomes the conversation that the rich get richer, right? Like they already have money, but if they keep cutting people, they keep making more money, and they streamline it and say, well, we can do it easier. However, what's going to happen is they're going to miss out on a lot of good players. Because one thing I want to mention is I remember when scouts were there to watch me play in high school, and all of a sudden my buddy, they found this left-handed pitcher in Southern Illinois. He went on to junior college. They kept following him. He ends up getting drafted by the Marlins. So it's like it gives opportunities to kids because the scouts are at the fields. Like, oh, if for example Josh Thole shows up on a perfect game list of he's going to be a top prospect and this and that. Well, now we can go cut the video and find his analytics and his metrics, and we'll just follow him that way. But it's way bigger. I mean, I remember scouts sitting down in my house, and that was the coolest part of it all.
Yeah, and it's
Ricky,
the perfect example.
People always ask me. Sorry, Beto. Sorry to cut you off,
ahead.
but people always ask me, "Would you have a chance in today's game?" Probably not. I probably would have not been found in today's game with all the stuff that's gone on and the way that scouts don't show up to high school games. Who the hell was going to step foot in at Roosevelt High School? Playing in Evergreen Park in a local park the school didn't even have its own field, so nobody was gonna go and really step foot there. I feel like so it for sure would have been different, but hopefully, like Josh said, hopefully it comes full circle at one point, and we get back to the roots of baseball and to the beauty of it of being able to scout a player and not necessarily go off of, oh, he's got a high spin rate. Well, a high spin rate doesn't mean anything. Are you able to get outs? Yes or no? Do you have the heart? Do you have the grit to go out there and show me that you can battle it out for as a starter for 7-8 innings? Obviously we don't see that nowadays, but that there's beauty to that. And Josh being a catcher, I mean, when he's carrying a guy into the 7th to the 8th to a complete game, man, those catchers just feed off of that, and they're putting down numbers, and they know that everything you put down, it don't matter the situation, you're going to get an out or you're going to get a swing and miss or something good's going to happen.
One of the best stories out there about scouts showing up is how they discover Fernando Valenzuela, right? Mike Brito is in Mexico to watch this one kid that everybody's talking about, and he sees this lefty from that nobody's ever heard of, and it turns out to be Fernando. The kid that the Dodgers have right now, that lefty, Victor, I believe it's Alvarez, is that his name?
Victor Gonzalez.
Victor Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Who, another one, was at this showcase. Everybody went to go look at somebody else, and he's the kid that stood out. I know it's an interesting topic, and we're not trying to sound like the old men here, but it's very interesting because, Ricky, you say you wouldn't have been discovered in today's game. And the reason we keep saying perfect game, for those who don't know, it's a big showcase that goes on all over the United States. It costs about $500-600 to go, and it's the elite athletes. Not always. It's usually who parents have money to send their kid there. They're all over the place. It's just the modern travel ball world of it. Josh, do you think you would have been discovered in today's game? Because you say you're from a small town.
Yeah, I would. I think I would have at least put myself on the radar because I was the kid that was like, I was finding any pro camps to go to, right? So anytime they had a showcase, my graduation, I graduated, let's call it on a Friday night. After graduation, the gym was over with. We got in the car. My parents drove me to Memphis for a tryout with the Cardinals. So I was engaged. Now, I don't think I would have played in the big leagues in today's game with the plus velo. These guys are so much bigger, stronger, faster than I believe we ever were.
Really?
And I say we, but I feel like I'm talking like I'm 100. But it's like I feel like this is flip-flopped in about the last 5 years. And I truly don't believe I would have played in the big leagues, or if I would, it would have not been for very long.
Come on, really? You don't think you would have played?
No.
Really?
No. I lived off of sinker slider guys, and they were a dime a dozen back in the 2010, 11, 12, and now it's 97, 99, 103. Like, I just can't. I had a slow bat. That's just how it was.
But with the training that goes on now, like you see the kids that you work with now, they're getting exposed to so many different things at a young age. Maybe that would have been you.
Right, and that could be. I mean, I'm speaking on the transition of the game versus my how I prepared.
That's interesting.
More than anything, but I definitely. I think I would have possibly had a chance because I was fortunate enough that my parents were driving me all over the creation to go to these camps, and that's how that's how the Mets first got onto me. Was I went to a camp at a university, and there wasn't many players there, and I actually had a good tryout, and then it kind of put me on the map, and it went from there.
It's crazy how it's all evolved, huh, Rick?
I think Josh would know better because he's fresh off the game, so he's kind of seen it. You know, I've been off the game for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now, and it's taking from everyone I've talked to, older guys, it's taking a huge shift the other way. Like in the past 4 or 5 years. Like I said, my last year, we weren't still using analytics or any of that. There was no spin rate. Nobody had even heard of that. So, I mean, I think Josh being, you know, when he came in till when he finished last season, I think the shift has been crazy. And you know, and it's just when I was going to that facility in Tustin and learning about body movement and analytics and stuff like that, it's crazy that kids nowadays, all they know is spin rate and, hey, what's my spin rate, or what was my you know, how much did my ball move there, or, you know, it's not necessarily, hey, did you see my shoulder drop or my elbow, did it drop a little? It's where's my spin rate at? You know, it's no longer mechanics, it's numbers now, which is, it's crazy to see. Like they throw a pitch and they go straight to the iPad and just to see like what it did, what the fastball did, and I'm like, what happened to the feel? What happened to the feel in the game? Because a lot of it, when you're pitching, it's feel. Like, you know, you can throw a good fastball and it could still get waffled out of the ballpark. It don't matter, you know.
Yeah, and it used to be feel, Ricky. I mean, that's what it was, and now it's not feel. I mean, you could throw 5 balls to the backstop, but as you said, if the iPad checks out, what does it matter to us?
Really?
I mean, oh man, I had a kid last year. I had a kid last year at the alternate site in Scranton. Just a really good breaking ball, outstanding, and he's trying to spin this thing even more, and he'll bounce it in the grass. Well, boy, that was a good one. That was 3,000 RPMs or whatever it was, and it's like,
how was it blocking 3,000 RPMs?
I just got out of the way. I don't block that. No, if you can't throw it, if you can't land it in the dirt circle, I'm out. You go chase it because these games don't count. I'm not getting it.
You know, it's interesting. All right, totally, because the way you came up and you were playing last year, you were in with an organization. And Ricky brings something up about the iPad. I see that now where I said my kid doesn't play baseball, but he plays basketball. And right away, everybody is, show me my highlight. Did you get that video? Did you get this? And it's not about let me learn from it. It's about posting your highlights. And it's really interesting because I see this when I go to my son. So my son's a decent basketball player. And I'll text Ricky, some video clips of him. And I was like, Rick, that's a good one. And I was like, hey, but look at him right here getting his ass kicked by this guy right here. Oh, this guy's 6'8", who's going to LMU or Pepperdine, whatever. So that's what he's going up against. Then I'll see some guys that everybody raves about, and they're on the circuit. And I'm, oh, cool, I get to see this kid. I look at him, and I see the game. I'm like, eh. And I'm not a basketball scout guru or anything like that. I'm just like, eh. Then I'll see his highlights from that same game posted on these big major sites. And it's like, oh, he did this, he did this. I'm like, wait a minute. That guy was 3 for 15 shooting, but those 3 look great. It kind of sounds like what the pitchers were. As long as the spin and the numbers look great, forget the result, right?
Yeah, right. No, that's exactly what it is, Beto. I mean, I know. I actually just had a couple kids go to a showcase thing over the weekend, and the first thing that the parents send me, because I'd like to stay engaged with my kids, is instantly coming off of the TrackMan. And I'm like, yeah, but like, how did it really look? Can I have some video feedback? Because that's what will tell the truth.
Yeah. No, yeah, and it's true. I mean, we touched on it a little bit last week where I said I have friends who are in organizations and they've seen kids throw bullpens and they're going well or something, and somebody comes and changes them and says, hey, the spin rate's not where it's supposed to be, and they'll throw a fastball to the backstop and they're like, that's it, that's the one. And you're like, what
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's the one that had the perfect spin rate, but it's nowhere near the zone, you know. And again, we can sit here and talk about this all day and stuff like that, but you know, again, you hear the benefits of it too. You know, I've spoken to a guy like like Brandon Morrow, who's really smart, who knows who can use technology and apply it. You know, you look at Trevor Bauer, what he's able to do with technology. There's certain guys that can use it and be like, okay, I can do that. I can maybe change the grip in my hands or change, you know, and see it in slow motion. You see certain breaking balls. What if I move my fingers maybe half an inch and stuff? That's all. I'm all for that. You know, that's really cool that you're able to do that and be able to apply it. It's when you start, I think, changing the game, trying to manipulate the game, and it doesn't work out. So there's benefits to that stuff, but I also think there's a lot of downfalls because certain guys don't have that. The you know, baseball is hard itself already. 60 feet 6 inches, being on that mound, being in that batter's box, it's hard. Now to be able to be like, oh, is my RPM going to be there? Is my spin rate going to be there? Is this going to break the way I want it to? Yeah. I mean, you know, can you imagine? I mean, Josh, you came up with like, you know, Johan Santana, like, you know, I don't know, was Pedro there when you were there?
My very first spring training, he was.
What?
So you were seeing these guys, you know, you were seeing Pedro Martinez, you were seeing Johan Santana. You got to see, you know, perhaps the best pitcher in baseball, Jacob deGrom, as a young pup, I'm sure. You saw Matt Harvey when he was at the top, you know, and he was nasty and he was really good. You saw all these guys, and can you imagine if you came up to these guys, especially the older guys, and said, hey, that spin rate isn't where it's supposed to be? Pedro Martinez, you know?
It's funny because one of my first minor league camps, they would, you know how they would send guys over to go hit off of like the big guys. And my first camp ever was Pedro was in camp with the Mets and on the major league side. Tom Glavine was on that staff, and I was going over a lot to get at bats off of them. And Tom Glavine sticks out because that was my first real like interaction on like with a major league player. And he's throwing a sim game on the field to us. And I think back to when that happened and how it was just command the baseball, spin the ball, front to back, speed guys up, slow them down. And he didn't throw hard. But that's a perfect example. Tom Glavine was not – I don't know what the spin rate was, but I can assure you that would check the box as a low spin rate, right? Like it was nice and easy, little sinker. And this is a Hall of Famer we're talking about. So my point being is those guys that did that stuff, it worked. It's worked.
Yeah. And we got to see a guy like that in Toronto, Mark Burley. You know, who's another perfect example. Can you imagine coming up to him and saying, hey, your spin rate's not where it's supposed to be? No, you left the guy alone. He can pitch. He can go out there. He can carve. And I'm telling you, Beto, when you watch this guy throw bullpens, oh, my God. It was like 10, 15 pitches. He'd hit every spot. All right, I'm done. Maybe at like 75, 80 miles per hour.
Maybe.
Literally.
Maybe.
That's it. And then he'd go to a game and maybe top out at 85, 86.
Hey, there was times he would get on the mound and throw 5 pitches and say, okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, you wish you had that, Ricky? Believe me.
Oh, my God. And there's something to it. You can't teach that kind of stuff. It's like, no. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to give you everything I got with 83, 84. And when you talk to hitters who face them, they're like, dude, he's so tough. He's so tough because he'll be cutting you, sinking you, and then he'll throw that 4-seam fastball that you think you can get, and then it looks like it's 95. You don't hear that nowadays. You don't hear that about hitters saying like, man, like, you know, he's throwing 82, 83 with that cutter, and then he's blowing 87 by me, and then next thing you know, we're in the 8th inning facing Mark Burley in the Chicago White Sox, and we're like getting shut out, and we're sitting there like, what is going on? What is going on?
And, and with Burley, it's only an hour and a half game too. We loved him
every time.
Oh,
every time.
As a reporter covering the Angels, when he would be pitching, we're like, all right, guys, we're out of here early tonight, bro. We're home by 10 because the Angel game always took 4 hours.
Best getaway day ever. I mean, he was absolutely fascinating to watch. And I used to say, guys like that, it was the most comfortable 0 for 4 you'll ever have.
I mean, I came up when Jamie Moyer was with the Phillies too. He was another one that you were like, oh shit, we're in the 6th inning and we're getting shut out.
And the guy that looks like somebody's dad. Like,
And I remember, I'll never forget this because Scott Richmond actually was the guy that went up against him in Philadelphia. I had Cole Hamels as my hitting debut. He gets Jamie Moyer, and he thinks he's like, dude, I'm gonna get a base hit. I'm gonna do that. He didn't even touch him. I don't think. I think he went over, and we were like, wait, what? You were gonna what? He was so like happy he drew Jamie Moyer, and at the end, he didn't touch him.
It's comfortable. Hey, so stop me if I told you guys this.
No, go ahead.
We're in Colorado. Jamie Moyer's pitching for the Rockies. Ricky, I know exactly what Scott Richmond's saying because I went to bed grinning ear to ear. I'm saying, yes, I got Jamie Moyer tomorrow. Perfect. Right to my path speed. This is how you climb out of some slumps, right? You get Jamie Moyer, comfortable AB, going to square some balls up. So first at bat, punch out. Oh man, how do I strike out off of this guy? Second at bat, punch out. And this was when I was younger, and I very rarely struck out. So R.A. Dickey used to bunt with a 37-inch bat. So I take that thing up there. First pitch cutter into the seats in Colorado. Hey, I'm gonna find this clip. I know it's somewhere. I actually was just bragging about myself the other day to somebody, and they found that clip of Jamie Moyer. So when I get it, we have to make sure that I'll have it for one of the next shows.
Yeah. Ricky, what year were you born?
84.
Jamie Moyer made his major league debut in 1986.
That's cool. Yeah.
Hey, you guys want to hear a fun stat? When I hit the homer off of him, the announcers made a point to say he gave up 10 homers in the major leagues before I was born. And I faced him and hit a homer off him. How great is that?
He pitched till he was 49.
It was insane, and he would compete his ass off too. Every time you watch him, he was like screaming like ball, 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 ball. If there was like anything near him, he was like running. He was like running stuff out. If there was a pop up to first baseman, he's like on a dead sprint. Like, dude, just stuff that like now talking about this, bring me back to like watching him, watching Cliff Lee, watching Cole Hamels. Watching guys like that went out, Josh Beckett in Boston, CC Sabathia in New York, like all those guys that just, Doc Halladay obviously with us, and you were just seeing, you would sit back and watch these guys, and you're like, man, like complete games after complete games. You look up, and there are 120 pitches in, and there's not even any movement in the bullpen, like not
even a thought.
No. Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay, you're not taking those guys out. You weren't.
Hey, let's have this for a thought. Let's go back to the Philadelphia Phillies days of that group. I was playing against them at the time, but holy crap, were they like a fun team to watch, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you went in to go play him, you felt as if your back was up against a wall. I mean, Scott Rowland, Jimmy Rollins, Chase Utley, Ryan Howard, Victor Reno, the list goes on. You already mentioned the pitching staff, Brad Lidge on the back end of the bullpen. I mean, it was just like the team of all-stars.
Well, how about this one? Dodger fans right now, I'm going to get you guys upset. Matt Stairs.
Stairs. Yes, my favorite.
Where's Jonathan Broxton at right now?
Oh, I'm still looking for that ball. No, and then you had another guy on that team, Raul Ibanez, who was just the nicest human being ever.
I forgot that guy.
He was with the Angels for a little bit. You're right, really nice guy.
A funny story behind that, Josh. It was my rookie year. We're in Philly, and Jimmy Rollins leads off, and he leads off with the single. Fastball. I was 3 pitches in. Chase Utley comes up, hits a double, second and third. Cito Gaston. I told Cito this story. I was like, you remember when this happened? Cito walks out of the dugout 3 pitches in, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened? He walks up to me and he goes, if you don't throw your fucking breaking ball, you're out of this game. Just like that. And walks away. 3 pitches in Philly, packed stadium. And I'm like, okay. Even Rod Barajas was catching that night. And he looks at me and he goes, he's like trying not to laugh. You know, you guys he had the mask on, so he's trying not to laugh. And he like walks away. And Cito just walks away, doesn't say anything else. Just walks away. And I'm sitting there like, I remember I pull up my hat and I was like, okay, here we go, you know? And I'm like, 3 pitches in? So then when I told him the story, we were doing fantasy camp with Robbie Alomar, and he goes, did it work? And I was like, actually, it did. I mean, I ended up going like 7 innings, I think 7 or 8 innings, punched out like 10 or 12. And he's like, you're welcome.
Hey, I mean, there's something about that. There's something to be said about the old school, like tough love.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't be in a fastball groove with these guys; they'll kill you, and it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, at the time when I was younger, I was looking at that like, damn, is he getting on me? Like, why is he being tough on me? But now, when I had a time to sit back and analyze it, I was like, this was all done on purpose. It was like, yeah, you're right. Don't get fastball happy with these guys because you'll be out of this game soon.
Yep.
And I remember the funniest part about that, we were facing Kohamos that night, and we ended up getting to him. And I think it was my 3rd at bat, and I looked back to see if he was going to pinch hit for me because I was like, it was my first 3 career at bats were like 2nd and 3rd bases loaded. 0 for 3 punches.
Jeez.
Yeah. So the 3rd at bat, I look back, and I'm like, is he gonna? And I was dealing, and he looks at me and goes, "Just fucking go." I was like, thanks, Skip.
That's interesting because that brings up another great point.
That's our hold on. I got to write this down. That's our promo right there. The promo for the show is just fucking go. 41 minutes in.
Hey, the funny thing is in today's game, that's not even the conversation. You don't even get to put your helmet on.
Yeah,
you're hooked. You're hooked. You're dealing.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting there and I'm going through my pregame routine or through my batting routine. I'm like,
that was nasty.
He better not. First fastball he throws me, I'm swinging. I don't care. And he throws a fastball away, and Chooch is catching Carlos Ruiz. And the fastball was so away that I'm like, and the umpire, I look back and the umpire calls it a strike, and I'm like, oh my God, that's what an outside corner looks like. Like I have no chance. And then obviously Kohamos is like, I'm not going to give up a base hit to this guy. So he like started going curveball, change up, and no chance. No, I wish I had highlights of those first career 3 at bats. I'm gonna try and get them. I'm gonna see if I can
somewhere.
Our researcher, the Anthony of Orange County, will find it. A crack staff researcher. He'll be there for you.
But that was like a funny rookie story that I was like, why is the manager being tough on me? But then by the end of the season, he was like, man, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Yeah. And he hated, like, not in a bad way, but like, managers don't like pitchers, especially hitting guys. And he was like, dude, you went out there and you showed me a lot. Even when I was struggling in 13, he came up to me. He like pulled me aside one day and he was like, if it's one guy that can get out of this, is you. And I always thought that was pretty cool. That was coming from a manager who's a legend in Toronto, back-to-back World Series titles, and had unbelievable teams there. And just listening to him and the stories that he has when we're in fantasy camp in that clubhouse, it's like it's him, Lloyd Mosby, Robbie Alomar. Can you imagine? I mean, you're listening to these old, like Cito Gaston is telling Hank Aaron stories, and you're just like, what the hell is going on? Like this, like Hank Aaron, like yeah, we were roommates, yada yada yada, and you're just like, you know that, Josh. When you get around those older guys, you're almost like keep your mouth quiet, and you're just like, keep going. Tell me more.
You're right, Ricky. You don't say a word, and you just let them go, and you take it all in. Those are some of my favorite days of playing for guys that have played with those type of players. Is listening to what they did and some of the routines, and they tend to just indulge everything, which is awesome, because as I've alluded to, in previous podcasts, this is what's important to grow the game and to pass along the generational stuff that will never change no matter what, and I will stand hard-lined on that. That stuff will not change, but some people think it will.
And I'll tell you what, old school guys love telling stories, man.
They ever? Give them a couple cold beers or doers, and it's like just sprinkling the bird seed to them.
Yeah. When I've been around like those guys, like when they talk about the World Series teams, the 94, 95 teams in Toronto, or 92, 93. Oh, I might be in trouble right there. But they're back-to-back World Series teams, and when you get Dwayne Ward, Robbie Alomar, you get I don't think George Bell was part of those teams, but you get all those guys in one clubhouse, and it's just story after story after story after story, and you're just like, man, the one thing I wish I would have done a little bit different when I was with the Giants after I got released. You would see Willie Mays in the clubhouse every day. And I wish I would have sat down and actually had a conversation. Yeah, every day in the clubhouse, every day he'd be sitting on on a little round table right there. And I wish I would have sat down and actually had a conversation with him, but I was always so like, what am I going to say to him? It was just like in awe. And I remember Brandon Crawford was actually my locker mate that year. It was like Crawford and then another kid and then me. And I remember the first time I walked in from BP, I was like running in, and you come into the clubhouse, you're taking off your jersey, getting into your gym clothes, and I look and I was like, oh my God, that's Willie Mays. That's Willie Mays. Wow. And Crawford is like he's like kind of goes like this to my face, and he's like, hey dude, he's here every day. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, he's here every day. Don't like, I know you're in awe and everything, but go and talk to him. And I was like, nah, I'll leave him alone. But that was and actually got in a jersey signed by him. I was happy with the picture, and I have a picture of me and him.
Okay.
And
cool.
but other than that, I mean, I think even here, like Sergio Romo is the one that kind of did the introduction between me and him, and just hearing like that he could barely, like he was almost blind and stuff. I was like, I don't want to go ask him for an autograph or bug him like that. Like, I'm sure he gets asked enough. And, and then the Giants had a dinner, and then you get like Gaylord Perry to go in there, and he's talking. He like talked to me like it was like I was like I'd been with the Giants for 10 years. And, you get Orlando Cepeda. Like, dude, it was just crazy when you're around like greatness like that you're just like, man, this is cool.
Hey, you guys want to hear? This is interesting.
Real quick, totally. These are the stories that I love hearing. These are the stories that the audience loves hearing. Like, if you can go and get X's and O's, analytics, baseball talk, any other podcast, but this is the podcast for you, the fans, that could just sit back and be, wow, I love hearing stories. So totally, if you don't ever say, do you guys want to hear a story? Because the answer is always yes.
I'll tell you.
Just tell them, baby. Just tell them.
So to Ricky's point, and this is interesting, and I used to do this to like some of the younger guys that had some baseball IQ, and when you bring up old names like that, Ricky, you could ask a lot of kids in today's game, good players that are young players playing in the major leagues, who some of these guys are. Obviously, everybody will know who Willie Mays is, but you bring up Orlando Cepeda. That's just one name that you brought up, but like there's a lot of people that would have no idea who he was as a player.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. It's like these kids are so far detached to what really is the history of the pastime, and they don't care to know. But that's the roots that have been planted for these guys now in the big leagues. And it's just, there's so much knowledge there. And there's a lot of people that do not want to sit around and have a beer and talk about, the 80s or the 70s or whatever. Well, you guys are just grumpy old men. It's not the case with everybody. I would assure you of that. But in today's game, it is like that.
This is it. I found it.
Hold on.
Where is it at?
Let me get you a solo one, Rick.
Oh, not that one.
That's you. You're looking good. Oh, wow. You got it.
Yeah.
That's freaking awesome.
Cool. So he would just sit there?
That table right there. He would sit there every day. I'm telling you, when they're like, he's here every day, I was like, come on. every single day. And he's obviously pulling aside like the Buster Posies, the Angel Pagans. They would sit there and they would just shoot the shit with him, and he'd be chilling, talking to him, and he was there just, I'm sure, it gets to a point where you want to be around the game no matter what, and you're going to live and die by it. And the San Francisco Giants are just near and dear to him, obviously. And they did obviously do a good job of taking care of him.
Yeah, the Dodgers had that with Don Newcomb, the late Don Newcomb, or at Dodger Stadium. Yeah. I never talked to him, just in passing. Hello, Mr. Newcomb, how you doing? Was always dressed to the nines, always in a suit, he and his wife, and they would sit. He'd get there right about 5 o'clock when the Dodgers are taking BP, and he would sit behind the on-deck circle, just sit there watching, and you would see the younger minority players go and talk to him. Like, I remember Matt Kemp would go and talk to him every single day. D. Gordon would go and talk to him every single day. And I asked Matt Kemp about this one time. I was like, hey, Matt, that's pretty cool you go and do that. He said, I didn't know, because Matt wasn't the biggest baseball fan. He was a basketball player in Oklahoma. He'd rather be in the NBA. He's like, they told me that I needed to sit next to that man to get some knowledge. So now every day I go and get some knowledge. And that was the passing on of what you got to do. And I remember him telling other players, you have to do that. And now you would see a lot of Dodger players start doing that. They didn't realize that, hey, that was Jackie Robinson's teammate. Like, right. He's the one who had to go through a lot of stuff. And you would hear some of the stories that the players tell about Don Newcomb. And like, he never did interviews. He just sat there and kind of, hey, if you want to come talk to me, I'll give you some knowledge, but I'm not going to go out of my way to give it. Does that make sense? Kind of like all the organizations. I think that's why the elite organizations are elite, because they do that, where other ones kind of shoo people away.
Well, I mean, exactly. Look, I mean, what I have heard that like Pat Henkin was so vital when I was in Toronto, and Ricky, I mean, you can speak to this, but just being around, and I know he was the bullpen coach at one time, right, Ricky?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was there for a year, but I felt like he was, when he served as the role of like the alumni that would come in and watch the game and be around. He was around a lot. But one thing that Pat brought was when we would go in to sit in pitcher-catchers meetings, Pat would be involved or just sit there and listen, and guys would pick his brain. And there's something that always stood out to me is, this was what he said when he was the bullpen coach one time. The comment was brought up, well, what is the best spot to go? And Pat Henkin didn't miss a beat. By meaning that is like, if we're in a pinch, what pitch did we throw and where? Pat Henkin didn't miss a beat and said the best pitch in baseball is a fastball down and away. And executed fastball down and away. And there's no truer statement, and it's so simplistic, but I still live by that. I've lived by that. I tell my kids that. I say, hey, when you're stuck behind the plate, the best pitch in the game, you don't know where to go, fastball down and away, execute. Now, if it's not executed, it doesn't matter, but the fact of the matter is it buys you a little bit of time. And having knowledge of Pat, and I know that his role has been trimmed a little bit from my understanding, but when you start weeding players out like that, it's a detriment to the organization and definitely a detriment to the game.
Yeah, it was.
He's another guy. There's another guy, Pat Henkin, who, I mean, I learned a lot from him, and we've actually spoken a few times, and he's actually a guy that wants to come on the podcast.
Oh,
man,
he
would be freaking classic. He would be a classic because he has so many stories about, just everything about those teams that were World Series teams, about being teammates, or like he talks about Robbie Alomar, like he's like the greatest second baseman that's ever gonna live. Like, no, and I mentioned Robbie because he's a good friend, and that's another thing when you become close to these guys and they're like, man, I can text Robbie right now and we're that cool and they're just normal human beings and they just want to be treated as normal human beings. Obviously, we see them as Hall of Famers and all that, but he's like, when you hear stories about like the Dome being sold out for 80 plus games plus the playoffs, like he's like, we were sold out every game. Every home game was sold out. You couldn't walk the streets. You couldn't do any of that. And Josh got a little bit of a taste of it when they were in the playoffs. in Toronto when all that stuff was going on with the bat flip and all that good stuff. But you hear about the way, can you imagine telling a Robbie that he has to go set up in middle right field because of a shit? They say that Pat Hankins, like, he would cover all that. Like, he would literally cover all that from his second base position. Like, you didn't have to worry about where he was set up or anything like that. He was a magician, with the way his footwork, his like glove work and stuff like that. And then you get a Devon White in center field who would just anything being hit out in center, he was catching it no matter what. And it was like, you're just like, I mean, you got Tony Fernandez at short, you got Pat Borders behind the plate, you had Kelly Gruber at third base. It was just, you hear all these stories that was like some of these guys were like misfits in this team, but it was like when it came to playing, it was like we were all a really close family.
That's cool. That's the organizations that do it right, and you love hearing these stories. And look, I'm just sitting here, I'm writing all these notes down like, damn, I got all kinds of good promos, but I think the promo today is going to be just fucking go.
Oh man,
I'm going to put that up on the Instagram at Let's Go Ricky Roll. You can hear the promo. Go check that out. We're going to wrap this up right now. Every Tuesday, we're going to have a show, 10 o'clock, live on YouTube. When people are asking, hey, you guys gonna have guests, you're going to have guests, we're going to get the guests. But first things, I was telling the guys, we need to develop our chemistry, which way we want to go. And every single week, totally, I know it's like, it's flowing now, bro. I just wish you had service so we can text you instead of every 3 days.
You just have to text me. Hey, sometimes my satellite Wi-Fi works, so just text me. It'll go through.
Sometimes. Because, we have an update. That coach you guys had in Buffalo, what was his name? The manager?
Marty Brown.
Downtown Marty Brown.
We found him, totally.
Oh, no, I talked to him on the phone.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Wait, I didn't.
No.
I called Ricky to tell him how excited I was. I'm sorry, Beto, I should have put that in the text. No, I called him.
Yes.
We're best buddies. Yeah, we're ready to go. Whenever we want downtown Marty Brown, we just have to we have to call his wife because she has to set it up.
Yeah,
because I don't know.
I found him on Instagram. He is running his own baseball academy back in his hometown in Missouri. I didn't know this after Googling that he's a big deal in Japan.
Huge.
His Instagram, he writes captions, or whoever does the account, I'm pretty sure it's not him. The captions are in English and in Japanese. And
yeah, his wife is from Japan.
Oh, okay. And he is like a big deal, and you see comments on his Instagram, people writing in Japanese. I'm like, who is this international man of mystery? So we need him, and he's another guy. I found a story about how he said, I no longer belong in baseball, so I'm just going to teach kids how to play baseball the right way. I'm like, oh, this is salty right here. We need him on the show. We need that kind of guy.
We talked for an hour and a half, so he's fired up. He wants on the show. Hey, one last thing before we go, though. Yes. I have a bone to pick with you guys. You all love golf and have a good time, but you guys have this golf ball that says Beto Vision on it, and you can put the cigar out. And I still don't have one. Well, it's almost golf season here once I get this booth done.
Oh, okay. That's from our good friend over at Stogies and Bogies. Never met the dude, but it's a great idea. And what you do is you put your he cuts open a golf ball for you, and it has like a little metal wire or something like that, where you stick the end of your cigar in there. That way you don't have to throw the cigar on the ground. Beautiful idea. I have a Beto Vision ball. It's a neon. We have a Let's Go Ricky Roll ball. So we're gonna have to get a Josh Tolley one. We got to create a new logo for the podcast. So once we have the new logo for the podcast, we'll get you out there. So it's a fantastic.
Well, we do have an extra. I do have an extra Stogies and Bogies with the label on it.
There you go.
That's what I'm talking about.
There you go. It's a beautiful idea. We'll take care of you.
It's funny because I've had a few. Do you know Danny Dorn? Totally. He was with the Dodgers manager. Yeah. So he asked me for one. Drew Hutchinson asked me for one. Everyone's like, dude, I gotta get me one of those. Get me one of those. Those are sick. Yeah. And since we've become cigar smokers lately, we just use them all the time.
Listen, this is our next business model. Let's get a business plan going because I could probably sell them at the local country club that I'm at. And I mean country club. Gorgeous country club. When you guys come up here, you guys can play at my country club.
Woo!
Hey,
Now we're talking.
Hold on. Is it the only golf course in town also?
Yeah.
Tully, I know that you like to imbibe in a little adult beverage.
Sometimes.
After you've, cleared the 8,000 acres or whatever you got and the horses and all that other stuff, text Ricky your address because we got gifts, bro.
Ooh.
Rod and Hammer Bourbon. I have a sponsor, my own brand. Yeah, I got sponsor. It's San Luis Obispo. They got their own distillery. I'm gonna send you a bottle of bourbon. Or would you want some tequila?
Oh my God! Bottle of bourbon.
Okay, bottle of bourbon. Would you? Yeah, we got all kinds of stuff, man. We're sponsored here, bro. We are ready to go.
Let me tell you, boys, it's sent. Address sent already.
Oh, you really did send it.
Yeah, you couldn't believe it.
Totally lives in. Wow, I've never seen a zip code 13. Wow,
I've never even heard of that city. Owego?
Owego.
All right, another fun podcast. This was good. Totally get back to the roof.
Yeah, I love it, guys. Great. This was so much fun again today.
It was.
Hey,
make sure you
stuff,
rate,
guys.
review, subscribe. Let us know. We'll be back next week. Maybe we'll have downtown Marty Brown. We'll set up a guest. We'll something like that. And
Yeah, I know. There's actually a guy maybe and because we're short on time with them being in spring training.
Oh, that's right.
Alec Manoa is supposed to get back to me about the possibility of joining the show. He was a first rounder a couple years ago out of West Virginia. Had a great camp. I want to, we can talk the journey with him, how he came up, growing in Miami, going to West Virginia, all that good stuff. Having a good camp and then still getting sent down. Obviously, he knew that was coming, but there's still something about that. I feel like that. You did good, and you're like, man, I wish I would have gotten a shot to crack the team. Obviously, manipulation with service time and all that crap, But I think I'm hoping they're supposed to have the day off next week, sometime Tuesday, I think he said. So we're hoping that maybe we get him on. If not, Marty Brown, he would be awesome. So whatever.
If not,
Marty Brown's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere.
If not, we'll get totally talking about being a farmer. We're good to go with that too. All right, guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks for another listening and watching and all that other good stuff. We'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks for listening to Let's Go Ricky Roll with Tony.